For many people, when they hear the word strength building exercises, also known as resistance exercises, it conjures images of young males with big egos in the gyms grunting abnormally loudly, eager to impress the fairer sex. But the truth is that that is wrong on two accounts. For one, to do effective strength building exercises, you don't need to join a gym. In fact, you can be your own gym. And I'm about to demonstrate to you a range of activities that you can do in the convenience of your own home. The second thing is that it's not just young males that can benefit from resistance exercises. In fact, if I were asked who could most benefit, I would reply the opposite demographic. It's probably older females that stand to gain the most. And the reason for that is there's three distinct things that are achieved through resistance exercises, like the ones I'm about to demonstrate. And the first one is that resistance exercises increase our muscle strength and increase our muscle tone. You see, as we grow older, we tend to experience sarcopenia, which is a loss of muscle mass. And when we lose muscle mass, we lose functionality, we lose strength, and there's a whole range of other problems that are associated with that. For example, stability. We're more prone to falling if that's the case. And so one thing is by doing resistance exercises, you can help preserve your lean muscle tissue, which is a real positive. The second thing, and this is fundamentally important, is that when you do strength exercises, not only do you improve the muscle strength, you also improve the strength of all the other things that support muscles, and that includes bones. And we know that one of the best ways to improve your bone density, which tends to decrease after the third decade of life, sadly, is to do resistance type activities like the ones I'm about to share with you. And then the third thing, and you're going to be interested in this, so listen up. We know that resistance exercises, by improving your muscle tone, can actually boost your metabolism. Now, if you know and are envious of those people who can eat copious amounts of food and are still as skinny as a beanpole, whereas we know there are other people who just walk past a cake shop and the smell goes straight to their thighs, we know that often the reason for that is because of your metabolic rate, your resting speed at which you burn energy. What we know is that resistance exercises are very effective for dialing up your metabolism. So, if you are interested in A, keeping up your muscular strength and functionality, B, improving your bone strength, and C, dialing up your energy expenditure even whilst you're sleeping, then resistance exercises are for you. So, let's get stuck into it. Let me show you a simple routine that you can do in the convenience of your own home. Now, before you do resistance exercises, it's always a good idea to do a bit of a warm-up. And that may just involve 5 or 10 minutes of brisk walking or jogging if you're up to that. So that's one important consideration. The second thing is that as we demonstrate these exercises, and I'd encourage you to follow along, if at any time you experience any pain or discomfort, then obviously cease from doing that and check with your health professional before you proceed. Now, for most of the activities that we're about to demonstrate, you actually need no equipment at all. But for some of them, it's worth having just some light resistance weights that you can use. And you don't need to go out and purchase something in order to achieve that. For example, well, if you do have some of these lying around the house, that's great. Or you could get some of these from a local sports store. But things like tins of food serve just as well. And you can get various sizes, obviously. Here's another idea, is taking a couple of drink bottles, and you can fill these up with water or with sand to varying extents so that you can adjust how much resistance you'd like to use. Now, I've invited my friend Heather here. Welcome, Heather, thank you, to help me demonstrate these range of activities. And these are the heaviest items I have, so you're going to take them and I'll take the tins of food. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start at the top and we're going to work our way down, and essentially these activities work most regions of the body. So you can get pretty much a complete body workout doing these, and as you'll see, it's just in the comfort of your own home and you don't need expensive gear. Our first exercise works out shoulder muscles, which are known as the deltoids, and the starting position is as such, and all we do is we extend the arms and then back down to the starting position. And you can keep doing that for the moment. What you'll find is that this is a very functional exercise, that mimics the action of taking things down from a high cupboard, which particularly as we get older can become a bit of a challenge. So these sorts of exercises can make a huge difference in this regard in increasing our functionality. That's the first shoulder exercise. The second one we'll come down to a position here. We need to make sure we're not going to bang into anything, but starting with our hands beside our side and keeping the arms almost straight, just bring them out to the side and then back down again. Nice. Now, people often say, how many times should I do this? Should I keep going till the cows come home? Well, in truth, what you probably need to be aiming for is around about 15, what we call repetitions. And every time Heather lifts that up and places it down, that's 1 repetition. There's 2, obviously. If you can select a weight that you can perform about 15 repetitions with, that's probably about ideal. If you get to the end of the 15 and it's like you haven't even lifted anything, then obviously you need to increase the resistance a little more. If it's too much of a struggle and your eyes nearly pop out of their sockets, then that's too much. And so 15 is probably an ideal target. Okay, there's our shoulder exercises done. The next muscle group we're going to work are the front of the arms, referred to as the biceps, and this is called a bicep curl. So our starting position is here, and we lift the weight and then back down again. Now, as Heather's doing that, I'll just explain it's a really important thing when you're doing resistance type activities is to adopt a good posture. And the most important part, or one of the most important parts of this, is what happens in this midsection region. Now, you may have heard of the concept of core stability, and what that means is making sure this area is nice, that the tummy's tucked in and nice and tight, because by doing that we support our lower back. And so that's the bicep curl, and you can see keeping that nice tight core is really important. Okay, for our next activity we won't actually need the weights. We're actually going to be using a wall, and this activity will target our chest muscles, the pectoralis muscles, and the back of the arms, which are the triceps. Let's move over to the wall, Heather. So Heather, if you can just stand with your hands about shoulder height, that's correct. Nice straight body, and the technique is just to lower yourself towards the wall and then push back out. And this is exercising the muscles on the back of the arm, the triceps, and also the chest muscles. Now what you want to make sure is that as you're doing this, you're keeping a nice straight body line. You don't want your bottom sticking out with a bent back as such, and also you don't want to arch your head and shoulders forward. Nice straight torso is the way to go. Once again, thinking about keeping that core nice and strong. Now, for a more challenging variant of that particular activity, we can find a nice stable bench as such. Take a good couple of steps away from the bench and lower yourself down and then back up again. And you can see this is beginning to resemble those push-ups that we love from our childhood days, which are actually a more challenging variant again. So that's our chest and our tricep muscles exercised. The next activity does the opposite, the upper back muscles and the biceps. And we need to come over the stairwell to do that. Okay, so for our next exercise, we're going to make use of this post, or you could use a railing around about the height of the midsection. And as Heather's got your toes nice and close to the base, and all we're going to do is lower ourselves down to a comfortable distance. Don't go too far beyond your capability, and then pull yourself back into position. And as you can see, this is working the muscles of the upper back and also the biceps. This is called an upright rowing exercise. Now, a variant of that is to use a chair, and I'll get you there, Heather, to put your knee and this hand on the chair as well before we take a weight in the other hand. And it's very important that you put this hand in place so that it supports the lower back. The exercise, as Heather's demonstrating, is just to pull the weight up to your armpit, and it's working these muscles in here. Very nice. Okay, I'll take the weight from you because we're now ready to do some lower body exercises. We're going to start using the chair again and put it in place as such. Very important for this that you have a very stable surface, so you could use a chair or a bench, something that's not going to give way on you. Now the exercise is to simply squat down, and it's important as you do this that you actually stick your bottom out. And if you look down, your knees they only act as a hinge joint. They shouldn't be collapsing in or out. And so you should be able to look down and actually see your toes at all times. Your knees shouldn't pass beyond your toes. That's why it's important to stick your bottom out there. Now, as you get better at that, perhaps a slightly more challenging variant is to actually come around to the front, and this time I'm going to stabilise myself by putting my arms out into the front and just lowering down to a seated position and then back up as such. And what you can see is that this is a very functional activity because it involves me going to a seated position and then back up, which is a strategy or a technique that many people as they get older have a lot of difficulty with. So it's a great activity to practice in that regard. Okay, for our next set of activities, we need to move to the floor. And so now we've worked the muscles in our upper legs, it's time to target our midsection region. And we're going to do the front side, which are the abdominal muscles or the tummy muscles. And to do this, as Heather's adopted, we want a nice bend in the knee. And all I'm going to get you to do, Heather, is just to place your hands on your thighs and just slide them up towards your knees. And you can see, for this exercise, all you need to do is lift your shoulders off the ground. You don't need to come up any further than that. And as we do it, we concentrate on tensing our tummy muscles. Now, one thing that's very important while you're doing this exercise, as with all resistance exercises, is that you need to make sure that you're breathing throughout the activity. It's in and out constantly. When you hold your breath, particularly that sort of grunting type sound, that we call it the Valsalva maneuver, it can dangerously elevate your blood pressure. So it's important that you keep on breathing. Well done, Heather. We've worked the front of our midsection, our tummy muscles. This is an exercise for the lower back region, and all I get you to do is to extend your arms out in front, lifting your opposite arm and opposite leg simultaneously. And according to our 15 repetition policy, if we could perform 15 repetitions on each side, that would be perfect. Once you've completed that, you could roll back over to the front, do your abdominal exercises, roll back, and then once you've done that 3 times each, you've completed 3 sets of 15 repetitions, which is the ideal. Okay, you can have a rest. We're on to our last exercise. We need to come over to the steps to do that. And for this last exercise, Heather, I'll get you just to step up a couple of steps. Very simple. All you need to do is place your toes on the edge of the step. Make sure that you're supporting yourself on the rail so that you're nice and steady. And then just lowering yourself down so that your heels go down and then back up onto your tippy toes. And this is called the calf raise. And obviously it targets the calf muscles. And what I find fascinating about this exercise in particular is that you're only using your body weight, and yet after 10 or 15 repetitions, you'll feel that burning sensation in your muscles. Don't be alarmed by that. Obviously, you don't want to push it too far, but that's a normal symptom of doing resistance exercises, and it should subside very soon after you stop. And so what we've been able to demonstrate for you is that it doesn't need to be difficult, and you can do it by just using simple equipment around the home, or for that matter, just your own body weight. You can perform a very effective resistance training program. If you were to do this 2 or 3 times a week, you'll notice very significant changes in your strength and your level of vitality. Give it a go.